Hola, hola, buenos dias, GnGs. My name is Trekkw2ks. Welcome to another episode of Weekend Crypto, brought to you here on the Gentleman of Crypto Network. If you don't know, the basic idea is I cover crypto-related news stories that happen between Friday and Sunday, pop them out 08 Monday morning, and I do it with a filter of no price talk. So I don't do the price, charts or none of that, and I don't try to frame these news stories in that dynamic of price go up, price go down. All right. But we do got a number of other folks who do that on this network. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, definitely stick around until the 9 o'clock hour, the 10 o'clock hour, because the Stack Bros do their thing at 9. King is doing his thing at the 10ish hour, and then we got other folks on, doing more price talk stuff too, but I'm just not that guy. Nonetheless, before I get into these stories, I do want to say, as always, thank you to the folks who are coming back. Thank you to the folks who are discovering me and taking the time to actually listen to, an episode. Thank you to the lurkers. Thank you to the scammers. And I always say that on the back end, we see the numbers are going. So, hey, I appreciate the watch time, right? And of course, thanks for the folks who are actually tapping in live on the live chat. And, we dig into it on the Mondays. I appreciate that. Definitely. I appreciate the engagement. But other than that, let me get into these stories. You know what? When I'm gonna get into the stories, and you'll see why I think I'm calling this a CBDC kind of theme. And I had more stories, but I cut it down to this. But anyway, let's get into this joint and we'll go from there. So here you have it. The first story is James Wallace praises CBDCs for financial inclusion. You saw what I had on the thumbnail, which was basically him saying that the CBDCs, as I call them, blue dogs, are going to make financial inclusion like 100% thing globally. Now, as I tell y'all, the links for these stories will always be in the descriptions, or at least, as long as I guess that's a relevant part of the thing to do, with saying like, here's where I took this story from. In regards to, even though it's less stories, I'm still just running through titles and like summarizing X amount of the points in these articles, y'all. But the links will be in the description. So in this regard, remember who this guy is. He's coming from Ripple. So he's coming from traditional finance. He was already looking to be bank friendly, traditional bank friendly, with an upgrade of crypto or blockchain related technology, right? And so him saying CBDCs are the thing that will bring financial inclusion, what I need folks to understand, and this is just more so about the confirmation of the two sides of what is in the Bitcoin crypto um community, as far as the thought process of, no, we don't want to be a part of the traditional system, and then the other part of, yes, we want to be a part of the traditional system, as far as like how finance and traditional banking control people's money versus people controlling their money or their capital or their financial um, um, assets, I guess to say. Now, in regards to this, you can read it. It's not crazy long. But the point of what he basically says is he sells a talking point about how CBDCs are going to be the thing that brings financial inclusion to everyone. Bottom line is, it's definitely a talking point. It's a BS kind of thing. But what I want people to understand is, when you hear people talking about financial inclusion, ask the question, especially because financial inclusion going forward is more involved with the whole online 24-hour connectivity thing. You got to ask the question, does this financial inclusion also count towards my data sovereignty? Or are you going to tell me that's two separate things, even though you're pushing me into the digital sphere? You're telling me that I have to have a bank account, and then if I do stuff through this financial institution, right, I have to do it in an online way. I have to be a part of this other crediting system and all other types of things that relate to the finance world. And so this thing with the CBDCs, as far as saying like that's going to be the thing that ushers in the the ability for everyone to be a part of the financial system. Just think of, when you hear financial inclusion, what they're really saying is, how do we expand how many people we get into this debt system? Because at the end of the day, what is it? The financial system is more about being able to finance the physical market of like people's labor, people's time and attention. And then when you get into other things, as far as the financial instruments that represent those things, that's where you get into the whole derivative IOUs, ETFs, and blah 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 blah. The point being is, of course, he's going to be a fan of CBDCs because he comes from the world of banking. And this article in particular goes more towards the confirmation of like, this is the other side of the folks that we have in this community. And if you're not paying attention, like they're going to turn around and try to sell you the shiniest looking sounding thing that's just going to be more wallpaper for your walled garden. In my opinion, that's my little whatever 2 cents on it. And let me just jump to this next story. That wasn't really nothing new about it. This was just more so me saying like, here we are confirming how Ripple looks like they're going to move, and definitely how they see CBDCs. Don't forget, they already making a global move. We're going directly to countries and talking to finance ministers and going, hey, we'll help you build out your CBDC. So yeah, they already doing their thing globally. All right, so this next story here, cybersecurity expert backs Elizabeth Warren's anti-crypto legislation. So I all right, so let's go with one. Who's the person? It's this dude named Steve Wiseman. He's a cybersecurity expert, and I heard a little bit about the hearing that they had, and from what I heard, I forgot who I was listening to. They were talking about it. It's like, yeah, it was basically her throwing him low ball questions and then him just kowtowing and towing the line for what he was saying as far as like, well, of course, mixers are bad and anyone who uses crypto in this way is obviously a bad person and we need to get all of the bad people. And everyone's doing their gaslighting talking points and she's making it sound like, she's going to be the most smartest person in the room on how to legislative wise attack cryptocurrency as far as putting in regulation that helps to stop/limit illegal activities. And it's just like, and then you get these yes people. And I always recommend that people check out C-SPAN because they had this on C-SPAN, the hearings and everything that went on. Point being is, what is the name of this site? Daily HOla. Like, I'm not 100% on why they went with this as the title, saying like, she had this big name security expert, like, because at the end of the day, most of us who pay attention to like these congressional hearings or when these kind of things happen, when you're in the space, who goes up there and who just like toes the line because they want to be in the good graces. They may be a part of the gang, or they want to be a part of the gang, or they're doing something to protect their industry or the business thing or some kind of relation that they have. So rarely do you get the people who actually call like what's going on. Like they call it out. They give it to the congressional committee, like in no uncertain, like here's the black and white terms of it, or like, hey, let's not make it that black and white and paint this whole space with one brush, but like let's actually acknowledge what the real numbers are. Let's actually acknowledge who the actual bad actors are. But then you have people like this guy who comes on and is like, of course, I'm just towing the line. I'm gonna say everything that you need me to say so I can get the contracts or be in the good graces for things down the road. That's at least my take on it. Yo, I don't know who backs her, but it's interesting how they throw out these stories with her and her being so anti-crypto. And then, like 9 times out of 10, she like, or maybe 8 times out of 10, she probably didn't even come up with this legislation bill as far as the details of it to begin with. But it would be interesting to see once we get like around 2025 and crypto is a part more integrated within the traditional financial market stuff, what she sounds like then. I'm just curious in the down the road thing, but nonetheless, this is the stuff that's being pushed out right now. Also, other thing to take away with this is we're in the political cycle, and we know that the legislation is going to start kicking into gear next year. As far as like who's doing their talking points for American consumption after MLK next year, and it's just gonna all start hitting the fan, right? Everything's gonna start coming out. So this arguably is the prep because we're gonna go into the winter, they're gonna come out, and then it's like boom, we're just gonna jump back into it. And this was that Christmas into like January, whatever things are gonna happen in crypto are gonna happen in crypto, and then the legislators are going to come back from their holiday break stuff, and then it's like, all right, let's start dropping these rules, let's start dropping these policies. Oh yeah, you remember you said you was going to vote on my thing? All right, like here it is. So it's going to be interesting to see what this looks like after January, when like everything starts coming out. Here's this story right here. It is not crypto direct, but it is crypto connected. And here's why I'm saying this, right? There's a whole movement of things going on in Africa right now between the C state doing their whole investment thing, the expansion of the Belt One Road thing, and just like, the other things that we saw taking place during the summer with the different coups and stuff like that for the different countries that are reclaiming their own sovereignty and stuff. And that's where for me, this article ties in, because this past Thursday, me and 3D did a story on, well, not a story, but we did a back and forth about the whole thing of who controls digital sovereignty. And in that conversation, we asked the question of like, well, it turns out digital sovereignty is not the same as data sovereignty. Digital sovereignty is for the nation state or a business or a corporation or whatever, whereas data sovereignty is for the individual. Now, how does that connect into this AI thing, or what is accelerated intelligence? Here we go. The basic idea is that in this article, they're talking about how the African Union has the ideals and is pushing an initiative to bring more accelerated intelligence programs to the continent of Africa amongst the various nations. And the idea behind it is we want to really get, the more, I guess to say, the places that would have the talent and the resources to be able to set up institutions of research in artificial intelligence. What I don't like about how this article goes about it is I don't think it's necessarily addressing it in terms of, one, there's no mention of digital sovereignty or data sovereignty in this whole article. So that's not a part of the conversation in relation to that. They want to push the development of AI in research, in academia, in commercial use case stuff. But no one, or at least in this article, they don't bring in the relation of what does it mean for the people on the ground who generate the data that will go into training the artificial intelligence systems. So they want to say access to accelerated intelligence, the technologies, is a human right, but they're not talking about the data sovereignty of what the person's information is that goes into these systems that teach them how to be better AI systems, right? To me, that's my new quandary for this whole thing about sovereignty. But nonetheless, I'm not going to beat the horse on this one. You can definitely read the article on this. And I actually got to reach out to a couple of folks over that way to find out like who's really calling this accelerated intelligence thing and how much of this is actually native talent pool, financial resources and stuff versus the whole like, all right, let's get somebody from Europe to come down and invest in, or let's get somebody from Europe to come and like, start the company and all of that stuff. But anyway, let me leave that alone. Y'all can read the article on this one. I last thing I'm gonna say is I'm actually wondering if this is a native idea to, a Nigeria, South Africa, Tanzania, someplace like that, versus is it an outside thing that's looking to be grown locally? Anyway, I'll leave that there. Somebody's picking up what I put it down. I hope so. Other thing to note about that, I'm gonna leave it and then jump into this next story. Indicator of you will hear more stories as the decade furthers along about artificial intelligence projects and y'all know I don't like doing price talk stuff, but the money's going to be moving over there. The thing about it is when it gets to the regular retail level, like, and granted, there'll be some folks will be like, oh no, it's going to be a while before that happens because, the outside European or like Western investors don't think that the African countries or the African region isn't stable enough, which that's a whole nother thing onto itself. But anywho, I'm gonna leave that there. Jumping into this story here, Kazakhstan unveils digital tenji in limited pilot mode with first ever retail transactions. Basically, it is a CBDC that they are launching within their region, and they're actually looking to get it to test it out within a smaller pool that is within the retail level of stuff. So it's not just commercial stuff. It's like, hey, we want to try to do it on a regular, where's it at? CBDC, yeah. They talked about it all the way back in 2021, and now here they go, they got it. Where are you at? Retail level transaction. That's what I was trying to say. That they're trying to bring it down to the retail level and not just have it be like, oh yeah, we're doing a beta test amongst the banking network right now. No, we're bringing it down to the actual people. Granted, it's a small pool of people. Point being is this is happening. Remember, I was saying before that I said this like a couple weeks ago. I think we're going to, the way it looks to me is CBDCs are going to go through the same phase of cryptocurrencies and that whole thing of like, I can do mines better than this one can do that. Like I can do this better than them. Or every like just like back in the day when the internet first started coming out, as far as like the commercial level commercialization of it, and Microsoft and them all try to run and have their own intra networks versus the intranet, right? And look where it got us. Where like, yeah, there are companies that have their intranet, but like everyone still had to come back to the whole bigger interconnected internet, right? World Wide Web. I look at CBDCs and what the different nations and the different banks are going to do, especially and particularly the central banks for these different countries and areas, right? We're going to go through that phase again. And this is me saying, like, as we see every couple of months, a new country's coming online with their CBDCs, and the vast majority of them are just white labeled software. Like I said before, Ripple is already doing, I think, something with at least 7 or 10 countries. It's still all white label software, just with their brand on it, just with the country's logo. You know what I'm saying? Like their symbol of their currency, and that's the same thing going on here. And honestly, like Kazakhstan, arguably for as remote as some people would say it is still interesting to see how technology-wise they've definitely been pushing their nation and not going loud about it. I should say it that way. Like they haven't been out here just we want to get all the publicity for all these grandiose ideas. No, they're just like doing the stuff, and then like once it's like built, then they're like, hey, we did blah blah blah. We're not talking it up. This is just for us here locally. We're doing what we're doing, but we're not getting left behind by the West or the East. So shout outs to them for doing what they're doing. Granted, they're gonna learn a lesson about the CBDC thing. It is what it is, though. All right. So here we are with this story right here, right? So tokenized real world assets are more than a Web3 Robinhood. I'm gonna bring it back in the short of saying this is, in my mind, a digital sovereignty thing. So what they're going on about, and it's two people who actually wrote this article, is that here's the pros and the cons of tokenizing real world assets, and then like how that would work when you trace things online. And they're going beyond just like looking at things as like, oh, I did a picture and it's an NFT, but it's not like a real world picture that you did a NFT version of. It's not a super deep piece, in my opinion, totally my opinion. But for me, what I'm not taking away from this article, and it might just be that I'm kind of a little colored right now with having recently gotten into this thing about the digital data sovereignty stuff, right? If you're talking to me about Web3 and you're not able to explain how digital sovereignty works or how I would be able to enforce it, or what is the distinction between, does digital sovereignty have to have an inherent digital ID in order for me to have sovereignty over my data, then just go on. And that's just me, though. That's just me saying that as far as how I feel Web3 is being sold to the public. In my mind, it's just certain parts of the stuff that I look at now. It's like, this doesn't make sense, but I see what y'all trying to push. All right, bet. From a technical standpoint, once you get past layer 1, you're moved away from direct access and transparency to that resource or to that tool. It's the same thing like if you were a farmer and then somebody told you, well, yo, don't worry about farming anymore. Just now go to the grocery store and get the stuff there. And then once you do that long enough, guess what happens? You don't know how to actually grow the stuff anymore, right? You don't know that process anymore. You just know that you show up and it's there. That's the same thing how I'm kind of starting to look at the idea of tokenizing stuff. But if that conversation of tokenizing things is separate from data sovereignty, then in my mind, all you're really doing is moving me and separating me from a resource. That's how I'm taking that. I'm gonna leave that one there because I feel like I kind of went a little too far down the rabbit hole on that one. But nonetheless, link for this will be in the description. Y'all can read it through when y'all want. I do highly encourage folks to do their own due diligence. I'm just saying, like, I don't know how you're looking to operate in this space. And again, as I say, I am not a what's the thing? I'm not a CPA, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just sharing some news articles that, kind of catch my attention, and I have a couple of thoughts on them. So this next one is BIS report reveals the vulnerabilities in stablecoins. This is Bank of International Settlements. If you do not know who BIS is, that's who they are. So the short of it is the reason why they say that there's vulnerabilities in the stable coins is because they can't what did they say specifically? They said it a certain way, and I had to laugh when I read the article. What is it? Yeah, so BIS compares stable coins with other USD settlements and merchants, stable coins, and here it is. So reveals mechanisms to ensure stability. That's what it was. Stability. So when you read in the article a little bit further, the way that they actually are saying the issue is they don't have the legal tools of enforcement, right, and policies and enforcement, and then they don't have the technical systems integrated to where they can, through their influence, control and move the market the way they want it to go. That is the short answer of what this article is actually covering. So I say this as this ain't even a trend. This is the pattern. Like, they word it in this real high talk. Not it ain't even like economic, like PhD level talk, but it is more out of the everyday person, how we talk about money and understand like how the stock market moves and stuff like that. But the short of it is, they're saying it's vulnerable because they can't control it. They can't control it how they would like, with the tools that they would like to have control as on it. So it's just like, hey, there's another example of them saying they want to control how things work, and it's not about you having economic sovereignty. That's the bottom line of that. Like, it's not about you having economic sovereignty. Yes, you can be a part of the financial system, but it doesn't mean the same thing as having economic sovereignty. That's it. Where was I trying to go? Oh, I'm gonna leave that there, y'all. Today's stories, I definitely note it's not like necessarily crypto, like they're not apparent crypto stories, right? They're not apparent blockchain crypto stories. But in my mind, for the way that I understand stuff and how I'm dealing with things right now, a lot of this stuff interconnects one way or the other. And like the funky part of it is, the longer you're in this crypto thing, and then when you're paying attention to like what's going on in the physical market and the financial markets, like X amount of this stuff start to make a lot more sense. And then if you understand at least a smidget of the tech, and I'm not saying as a dev and being able to write code, but at least if you can understand X amount of the technical part of this, as well as like how this stuff plays out in the bigger world, like you just start looking at stuff like, like this is where we are. Yes, this is where we are. Modern day man in the 21st century, living in the US and wherever you are. But yeah, I'm gonna jump off on this last story, y'all. So People's Bank of the Sea State, I'm doing air quotes about that right there, test digital yuan payment integration in Hong Kong. You saw what I did on the thumbnail. I did say that it was Hong Kong gets to test out the Sea States CBDC. Again, there's a number of CBDC related stories, right? On the BRI. If you don't know what the BRI is, Belt Road Initiative. It had a couple of different other variations on that before, but like it's been going on for a minute. And point being is, this happened. Here's my thought, right? And I've said this before. Hong Kong sits in a very interesting position in relation to mainland sea state, right? One, you can't take precious metals as an individual out of the sea state. What you can do though is you can go into Hong Kong, have your bank back on the mainland wire you money, do that transfer stuff, and then buy the precious metals that you want there, and then go about your business with it in Hong Kong. So this whole thing of them doing the CBDC there, which Hong Kong is also a part. Well, it will be integrated into the one of the ports for the whole Belt Road Initiative thing, right? And the reason again why I bring this up is because there's a lot of Westerners in Hong Kong. There's a lot there, and like the way that they have been setting up their crypto regulation, in my mind, how I look at it is seemingly friendly enough for locals from mainland, locals on from Hong Kong, quote, as well as the Westerners or the other South Asian folks to come over, do what they're gonna do, start the business, transfer whatever, and then like that's gonna be a corridor. The bottom line is various currency mediums are going to overlap and exist, and I think Hong Kong will be that funnel for the Asian region, and particularly how things may be moving in and out as far as capital goes when it comes to Hong Kong and how it relates to the mainland, aka the sea state, right? Um, and I think this is going to be interesting to watch how this develops. And again, what was it? A couple of weeks ago, I had mentioned who was that? The R State did their contract agreement with the UAE about how they would accept their CBDCs. And I said when that joint popped up, I said, okay, this is going to be an indicator of other nation states are going to look to make direct contract agreements with other nation states that are looking to receive or become the next financial hub, or that are looking to strengthen their position as a financial hub. Case in point, the sandbox, that whole region out there, the money's flowing. Other places are going to start doing the same thing soon. I don't know who's going to be the next one, but I can see something's going to come up before the summertime of at least one more agreement coming out. Then looking at what's the other place? This Hong Kong situation. Like I said, Hong Kong is a part of the network for the BRI. I'm more now wondering who's going to be the next country along the BRI route, because it's an ocean and a land route. It's two routes, by ocean and by land. I'm wondering if the next would be by land, which would put it out there by like Uzbekistan or not Kurdistan. Damn, I just had the name earlier, but nonetheless, someone else is going to be testing it out before the summertime, at least how I'm looking at it in my mind. And so we're gonna see some interesting things. There's a lot of interesting things happening on a geopolitical scale right now. So yeah, it was a lot of international stories, and a number of them related to CBDC type stuff. And like I said before, like it's gonna be more things that come out, and we're gonna go through that phase, but with CBDCs, and it's gonna be fun. Let me not say that one. Nonetheless, that stuff is gonna happen. I don't know what the exact timeline is. Links for these stories are in the article. All right, I'm gonna cut it short, y'all. No, I'm gonna just cut it right there. Listen, as I say, have a productive over busy day. If it can't be a productive over busy day, aka a P over B, at least be in a safe space, in a safe place, and in good company, right? That's the best thing that I could wish from one human to the next. Other than that, I hope to catch y'all at the next one, right? And again, I appreciate the folks who make it to the end, y'all.